I want you to imagine a very specific, like incredibly frustrating scenario.
Oh boy.
Yeah. Put yourself in the shoes of a scholar. And not just any scholar. You are a heavyweight. You hold a PhD from Harvard or, maybe Oxford.
Right.
You have spent a decade acquiring the absolute gold standard of global academic credentials. Your research is cited everywhere. Your English is flawless, and your pedigree is just undeniable.
The top of the academic food chain.
Exactly. Now, you apply for a job at a local university in Argentina. You walk into that committee room confident, your resume practically glowing in the dark,
Yeah.
and you are immediately rejected.
Wow.
Tossed out. They don't even blink.
Just straight to the trash.
Yes. But wait, it gets crazier. Look at the person sitting at the absolute pinnacle of academic power in that very same university department.
The one deciding your fate.
Right, the person deciding your fate.
Yeah.
It's a local teacher, someone who has literally never left the country for their studies, someone who only writes and publishes in Spanish, someone who has never published a single paper in a prestigious global journal like Nature or The Lancet. Yet they hold the highest possible rank. They hold the power. They are the academic titan on that campus.
It sounds completely backwards.
It does. So ask yourself, in our hyper-globalized world, a world where an English language publication is supposedly the ultimate, undeniable currency of human intelligence, how is this scenario even remotely possible?
I mean, to anyone who has ever stepped foot in a modern academic institution in the US or Europe, it sounds like a glitch in the system.
Yeah, a typo.
A bureaucratic typo, exactly. But I assure you it is not a glitch. What you just described is the front line of a brutal, largely invisible war, and it is a war over cognitive capital.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we are going deep into a massive comprehensive study published by CLSCO. We are looking at a 25-year period from 1993 to 2018.
Analyzing what they call evaluative cultures in Argentina.
Right. But we aren't just looking at dry history. We are going to look at the spreadsheets, the hidden rubrics, the mind-numbing bureaucratic checklists that quietly dictate who gets funding, who gets prestige, and who gets, well, systematically starved out of existence.
Because the invisible hand of global university rankings isn't just about bragging rights. It is quietly, ruthlessly redrawing the map of global power.
It really is.
It dictates what we're allowed to study. It dictates what language we are forced to think in. Today, we are unpacking a decades-long battle over academic sovereignty.
It is a story of fierce resistance, heartbreaking submission, and the terrifying reality of what happens when a country's intellectual soul is hijacked by an imported rubric. Okay, let's unpack this.
Let's do it.
Because from everything in this study, the global scale of value is completely broken.
Yeah.
I mean, globalized academic evaluation was sold to us as a meritocracy.
Right. The best ideas win.
Exactly. It was supposed to elevate the most brilliant minds on the planet. Instead, it is turning our brightest thinkers into assembly line workers. It is turning scientists into people who just punch a bureaucratic clock.
To really understand this, you have to picture a scale.
Right.
A literal weighing scale.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
On the left side of the scale, you have the mainstream English language journal paper. That is the global currency. It's what gets you tenure at Yale or Oxford.
The Holy Grail.
Right. Now, on the right side of the scale, you have local teaching, you have social management, you have a researcher spending 10 years solving an actual immediate poverty crisis in their specific local community.
And the global market places a massive crushing weight on the left side.
Absolutely crushing.
The global market only cares about the English paper. But what makes Argentina so fascinating and frankly so bizarre is that they didn't just accept this scale.
No, they didn't.
They accidentally built a two-headed monster. They created two entirely different, aggressively competing systems of validation that exist at the exact same time.
Exactly. Let's break down the two heads of this monster. First, you have CONICET.
The National Research Council.
Yes. Think of it like a highly exclusive government-funded VIP club for researchers. And then you have PROINS.
Which is what?
That is the University Incentive Program. It was designed for the thousands of regular teaching faculty. And these are not just two different administrative offices down the hall from each other. They represent two entirely different philosophies of what knowledge even is.
Right. They're judging entirely different sports. I mean, CONICET rewards the machine. It rewards the highly internationalized, paper-producing, English-writing scholar who is playing the global game.
Precisely. If you are in Conicet, your survival depends on hitting the metrics dictated by London and New York.
The impact factor.
The impact factors, the citations, but Province was designed differently. Province was built by the local universities themselves to reward the local professor.
The teacher.
The teacher. The person who actually stays on campus, runs the messy departments, and mentors the 18-year-old undergrads.
Wait, so if the global standard is the only thing that brings in international prestige, why do local universities even bother keeping these teaching-focused Perowens professors around?
That's a great question.
I mean, why not just fire them all and hire the Conicet paper pushers to boost their global ranking?
Because the university would physically collapse without them.
Really?
Yes, the paper pushers don't want to teach 300 freshmen at 8 in the morning. They don't want to organize community outreach programs in local slums. They want to be in a lab writing in English.
Ah, so they need the local teachers.
Desperately. So the university needs the Province teachers to actually function day to day. But the psychological result of having these two systems side by side is total, devastating alienation.
Alienation, that's a really strong word. What does that actually look like for a researcher on the ground?
It looks like an identity crisis.
Give me an example.
Okay, imagine you are a brilliant sociologist. You want to study a hyper-local issue, maybe the informal economy in a specific neighborhood in Buenos Aires.
Okay, a real local problem.
Right. But you look at the Conicet rubric. You realize that to get funded, to survive, you need to publish in an American journal. But the American journal doesn't care about a local neighborhood in Buenos Aires.
Unless it fits their narrative.
Exactly. Not unless you frame it through a trendy, theoretical lens that American academics are currently debating.
So you have to twist your own research.
You have to.
You aren't researching a topic because your community needs the answer. You are modifying your curiosity to fit a foreign template. Knowledge is no longer about discovery. It is about fitting into a predetermined mold.
You become alienated from your own work. You are extracting data from your own people, packaging it into a foreign language, and shipping it overseas to be validated by strangers.
It is like playing a sport you love. You've played your whole life in your hometown, and suddenly the referee stops the game. He changes the rules completely. The goals are moved. The ball is swapped out.
Just out of nowhere.
Yeah. Why? Because a different country bought the league. You have to ask yourself, if the rules don't serve the local players, who are they actually serving?
They serve the center.
The global center.
Right. They extract value from the periphery, countries like Argentina or really anywhere outside the US and Western Europe, and they feed it into the global center.
Which is wild when you think about how it's presented to us.
Most people think academic evaluation exists to improve research quality. We assume it's just a neutral tool to make science better. It is a comforting lie.
A total lie.
Yeah.
The data in this study makes it very clear. It doesn't improve quality at all. It just changes the definition of quality to serve the people making the rules.
Not even a little. The global evaluation tools we see today are a financial dependency war. They are a mechanism of control, simply dressed up in the respectable clothing of objective science.
Let's go back to the 1990s to understand how this happened. Because universities weren't always obsessed with these rigid spreadsheets. The source material talks about this massive global shift, the rise of what they call the evaluator state.
Yeah, so before the 90s, much of Latin America operated under what we might call the benevolent state model.
Benevolent.
Right. Now, it wasn't perfect, obviously, but the basic premise was trust. The government gave universities a lump sum of money.
Like a block grant.
Exactly.
Huh.
You are a public university, you have a social mission, here's your budget, go educate the citizens and do good work.
Wait, if the universities were functioning under that trust-based system, why did anyone agree to these rigid metric spreadsheets in the first place? It sounds like they just voluntarily walked into a prison cell and handed over the keys.
They didn't walk in voluntarily. They were pushed in at gunpoint.
Financial gunpoint.
Exactly. You have to look at the macroeconomic reality of the early 90s. Latin America was facing massive debt crises, hyperinflation, and economic structural adjustments.
The IMF.
The IMF, the World Bank, the global neoliberal shift. Trust was completely out. Metrics were in.
In 1993, Argentina created Province through Decree 242793. That was the exact turning point. Higher education survival was suddenly, violently tied directly to funding metrics dictated by the state, which was in turn trying to appease international lenders.
The decree essentially said, you want your salary bump, you want your department to keep the lights on, you can no longer just, be a good teacher. You must prove your worth on this specific, hyper-rigid, externally audited spreadsheet.
He was an impossible choice for peripheral nations. You are a local university rector in 1993. You have a literal financial gun to your head. How do you pay the electricity bill if you don't submit?
You don't. You either blindly accept the US and UK rules of valuation, the global metrics, the impact factors, the citation counts, or you face total financial isolation. You comply, or your university starves.
So they complied. They filled out the forms.
Mm-hmm.
But as we discussed with the two-headed monster, they fought back in their own weird, bureaucratic way. And this leads to the absolute strangest dynamic I have ever heard of on a university campus.
The creation of the elite by fronte, the two-faced elite.
Right. You have these beloved professors, absolute titans of the campus, legends to their students. But the national system treats them like second-class citizens.
It completely ignores them.
Meanwhile, the national stars are ghosts on campus. Let's look deeply at these two faces. Face one, the connoisseur researcher.
Let's build a profile of this person. High impact factor in their publications. Impeccable English writing. They submit to journals with massive rejection rates.
Very impressive on paper.
Very. But they are completely detached from local teaching. They might literally not know where the undergraduate lecture halls are on their own campus. Their audience is a peer reviewer in Cambridge, not a 19-year-old student in Buenos Aires.
And then you have face two, the pro-ins teacher.
High local teaching prestige. Writing in Spanish. Deep social integration. They're the ones running the departments, sitting on the messy administrative committees, handling student crises.
Boots on the ground.
Exactly. They're actively mentoring the next generation of Argentine citizens.
But here's the crazy part. The capital they earn, the prestige, is completely unexchangeable between the two systems. It is literally like trying to spend monopoly money at a high-stakes casino in Vegas.
That is a perfect analogy.
You can have millions of it, and the dealer will just laugh at you.
Because the money has massive value, but strictly within its own walled garden. Let's play this out. You take a connoisseur star, a researcher with dozens of English papers in Nature, but zero teaching experience.
Okay.
If they applied for a local university teaching competition to become a full professor, they would lose.
Wait, really?
Yes. They would be soundly defeated by a local pro-ins professor with deep teaching roots and social connections.
And flip it around. Take that local dean, the pro-ins teacher, who is a pillar of the community, who has guided 1,000 students to graduation. They apply to connoisseur for a research grant.
Rejected immediately, tossed in the bin. They don't have the requisite English citations. What's fascinating here is that a single country accidentally built two completely incompatible academic empires.
It's just wild.
They exist in the exact same physical space. They share the same campus coffee shop, but they exist in a state of peaceful coexistence that is actually a brutal Cold War.
They pass each other in the hallways. The connoisseur researcher looks down on the pro-ins teacher as an intellectual lightweight.
And the pro-ins teacher looks down on the connoisseur researcher as a detached, globally obsessed mercenary. They are playing two entirely different games of survival.
And you would think, with all this free competition, with this new globalized metric system being forced upon them in the 90s, things would democratize. That is always the promise of neoliberal reform, right?
Yes.
That the market will spread resources evenly, that the best ideas will win, no matter where they come from.
That is the promise of globalization, the famous flat world.
But the data in this SILAS CSO study is a total slap in the face to that theory. Free competition in Argentina didn't flatten the academic world. It created a permanent, hyper-concentrated monopoly.
I mean, we have to look at the University of Buenos Aires, UBA. The dominance is staggering.
I was blown away by this statistic. A massive chunk of the absolute top academic resources in the entire country is permanently trapped in 3 corners of a single city.
It really is. UBA holds an unbelievable 25% of all the category teachers in the entire country.
And just for context for the listener, Category UN is the absolute top of the Peer 1's pyramid. It is the hardest rank to achieve.
And it takes decades.
Decades. And one single university holds a quarter of them.
It gets worse. If you look at the total top tier, categories I and II combined, UBA dominates that too. Meanwhile, look at the connoisseur side. The globalized researchers. 31% of all connoisseur researchers are physically located in the capital.
And here's the kicker. 32.5% of all connoisseur researchers in the entire country graduated from UBA.
So academic globalization was supposed to erase borders. It was supposed to elevate the periphery and give everyone an equal shot at the global stage.
Right.
Instead, it wildly widens the gap, not just between the U.S. and Argentina, but within Argentina. It creates uncrossable internal chasms.
The rich get richer.
Exactly. The capital city sucks up all the cognitive wealth. the funding, and the prestige, while the regional universities in the provinces are left starving for scraps.
So if the game is rigged to favor the capital, how do you even play? How do you get to category, if you aren't at UBA, how do you actually win this bureaucratic game?
You have to submit to the peer review process.
Peer review. We need to put that phrase in massive, flashing, neon air quotes.
Massive air quotes, because it's not a review, it is an assembly line.
I want you, the listener, to really imagine this. Your entire career, your salary bump, your ability to feed your family or get a mortgage depends on this evaluation.
Your entire life.
Yeah, you spend months compiling a massive physical folder of your life's work, every syllabus, every paper, every community project. And the jury assessing you literally does not have the time to read a single word you wrote.
This is the terrifying reality of the Puron's peer review committees. The data shows these committees have to evaluate over 40 folders a day.
Let's just do the math on that out loud. 40 folders a day. Let's say a folder is, conservatively, 100 pages of a person's life work.
Probably more.
Let's say 100. That's 4,000 pages. In a span of just 3 to 4 days of committee meetings.
It is physically impossible to read that material. Even if you drink 10 espressos and don't sleep for a week, you cannot read 4,000 pages of dense academic output in a day.
You cannot read for cognitive contribution. You cannot judge the nuance of a new sociological theory.
No, you can only look at the letterhead.
You aren't reading. You are auditing. It becomes a purely bureaucratic accounting exercise.
Right. The evaluation is reduced to a checklist. The system is completely blind to actual intellectual value. It only checks for the absence or presence of attributes.
Did you publish in a Scopus Index journal? Check.
Did you manage a research project? Check.
Here's where it gets really interesting. It's like judging a master chef not by tasting their food, but by breaking into their kitchen and counting how many spatulas they own.
The spatula method.
Yeah. You have 15 spatulas. You must be a 3-star Michelin chef. How can this possibly measure true academic worth?
It can't. It doesn't even try to. It measures compliance.
And what if you complain? What if you feel you were judged unfairly by the spatula counters?
Oh, good luck.
Right. If you say, wait, my research actually cured a local disease, it just wasn't in an English journal.
The appeals process is a nightmare bottleneck. The study tracks this. It lasts for years. You are trapped in bureaucratic purgatory because the system literally cannot process the human, unquantifiable element of your work.
So if your survival is forcibly tied to a rigid, blind spreadsheet, what do? You are a smart person.
You adapt.
You adapt. You stop doing science, and you start doing what the researchers call spreadsheet engineering.
This is the hidden game, the dark art of academic survival. The Prowen's grid requires massive points. To hit that coveted category I, you need a total of 1,200 points across various metrics.
But there are caps. This is the most devious part of the bureaucracy. You can't just be a world historically amazing researcher.
No.
Research output caps at 300 points.
Yeah.
You can't just be the greatest teacher in the country. Teaching output caps at 250 points.
So what happens when a brilliant researcher hits their 300-point limit in research? Do they stop researching?
I mean, they shouldn't.
No, they don't, because the lines between research output and teaching output in the GLID are incredibly blurry.
Let's walk through a hypothetical scenario. Let's say your name is Maria. You spent 2 years researching water quality in rural Argentina. You hit your 300 points for research, but you need more points to get category I. You need teaching points. What does Maria do?
Maria becomes a tactician. She develops ingenious methods to split, package, and relabel her work. It's called salami slicing.
Salami slicing. I love that.
She takes that water quality research finding, she publishes it as a paper that maxes out her research. Then she spends a week rewriting the exact same findings into a seminar syllabus for a graduate class. Boom. Now it's submitted under teaching output.
She changes the title slightly. She adds some learning objectives at the top. But it is the exact same intellectual labor.
Exactly. The researchers relabeled the exact same work to fit into different columns. The study explicitly notes that up to 45% of scholars admit to massaging their applications to make one piece of work count in multiple categories.
45% admit to it, so the real number is probably way higher.
Oh, without a doubt. They manipulate the form to maximize points.
It is a profound tragedy. Think about the opportunity cost here. You have the brightest minds in the country, people who could be curing diseases, solving poverty, engineering new energy solutions.
And what are they doing?
The system forces them to waste hundreds of hours of their immense intellect gaming a bureaucratic form just to survive.
It forces brilliant minds to become defensive accountants of their own academic lives. And while the scientists figure out how to game the math using syllabi and product titles, the artists are simply being crushed by it.
This is the unspeakable taboo of the whole system. How do you use a physical thermometer to measure the value of a Renaissance painting?
You can't. It's a fundamental category error.
But the academic evaluation system doesn't care. It is trying to do exactly that, and it's driving artists and humanities scholars insane.
Truly insane.
For years, Proens took the metrics designed for the natural sciences, physics, astronomy, biology, and violently forced them onto the arts and architecture.
Think about how natural sciences operate. They operate on the rapid paper publishing model. You do an experiment, you write up the data, you publish a paper, you get cited by other experiments.
It's a neat loop.
Right. It fits the global quantitative metric perfectly. So naturally, physics and astronomy had massive success rates in Proens. They hit 77.7% of their expected grade achievements.
And art. Let's say you are a theater director. You spend 3 years putting together a massive, socially impactful play about the victims of the military dictatorship.
A hugely important piece of work.
Thousands of locals come to see it. It heals community trauma.
Yeah.
How does the Proens grid score that?
It scores it as a 0, or very close to it. Art sat at the absolute bottom of the Proens expected grade achievements, a dismal 54.2%.
Because the grid asks the theater director, where is your peer-reviewed paper in an English journal with a high impact factor?
Right, because how do you judge a sculptor by citation counts? It's complete madness. It's like asking a fish to climb a tree and then failing it for lack of effort.
And it wasn't until the 2016 to 2018 evaluation cycle that the arts finally rebelled. They fought back. They demanded and finally received a specific, separate evaluation section tailored to artistic production.
But for over 2 decades, they were systematically punished and defunded simply for not being physicists.
And the punishment doesn't just hit the artists. It hits the most vulnerable people on campus, the students.
The kids.
If a university only rewards the paper publishing stars, if it financially starves the beloved teachers who actually sit down and mentor the youth, what happens in the next generation?
We see the emergence of what the study calls the scissor gap.
The scissor gap.
Yes. It is a brutal divergence of incentives. High effort in teaching yields incredibly low bureaucratic rewards. You can spend 40 hours a week grading papers, updating curriculums, and counseling struggling students who are the first in their family to go to college.
And the grid gives you almost nothing.
Nothing. But high effort in research, churning out highly theoretical papers for a foreign audience.
Maximum rewards. You max out your 300 points instantly.
Exactly. A connoisseur researcher who does almost 0 actual teaching can easily hit the top Proens categories. Meanwhile, a dedicated teacher struggles to scrape by at the bottom, stuck in category V.
The emotional toll here is devastating. I want to linger on this moral injury for a second. Imagine being a young, passionate teacher. You love your students. You want to see them succeed. But you look at the grid. To survive, to pay your rent, to get a promotion, you are forced to abandon them.
You have to make a cold, calculated choice.
Yes. You actively cut back on lesson prep. You stop holding office hours. You lock your office door and ignore the knocks from confused undergrads, just so you can churn out another paper that, frankly, nobody will ever read.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this metric system actively degrades the core function of the university. The university, historically, exists to teach the next generation and elevate the local community.
Right.
But the evaluation system actively, financially incentivizes teachers to stop teaching.
But then we hit a weird paradox in the data. A glitch of humanity in the cold machine.
Oh, the double agents.
Yes, you have these ruthless global judges from CONICET. They hold the category I and II ranks. Because they hold the top ranks, they are the ones placed on the Proens University committees to judge the local teachers.
Right, the ultimate insiders.
You would think they would execute them. You would expect a bureaucratic bloodbath. You expect them to apply the ruthless global standard that got them to the top.
But they don't.
They don't. The data shows they suffer a total split personality. They become double agents. This blew my mind. When a CONICET researcher sits on a Proens committee, evaluating a pure university teacher who lacks massive research funding and English publications, they don't act as executioners.
They bend the rules. They actively suspend the global mainstream standards. They use local empathy.
Which is wild.
Look at the numbers. In committees dominated by CONICET researchers, They approve the requested rank for local teachers 71% of the time.
Wait, so the enforcers of the global standard, the people who benefited from it the most, the ones who played the global game perfectly, are the ones secretly sabotaging it.
Yep.
Why would they do that?
Because of profound cognitive dissonance and local solidarity. They look at the file, they see the teacher has no English papers, but they know that teacher.
They pass them in the hall.
Exactly. They know that teacher is holding the department together. They know that teacher mentored their own children. They know the reality of the local underfunding. So they adjust the scores. They quietly, subversively save the local teachers from being destroyed by the grid.
This is perhaps the most profound revelation in the entire study. The enforcers of the system know the system is fundamentally unfair. When faced with a human being, they quietly sabotage the metric to protect the local reality.
It's an act of bureaucratic rebellion.
But we have to be clear. Even with that local empathy, there is a larger invisible ceiling crushing everyone, and it speaks English.
Linguistic dependency. This is the ultimate, quiet loss of sovereignty. To understand this, let's look at the concept of epistemic violence.
Epistemic violence.
Yes, the idea that certain types of knowledge are considered invalid simply because of how they are packaged.
Let's translate that into a real-world scenario. Imagine a scientist in a regional Argentine province. They are studying a hyper-local epidemic. Maybe it's a specific waterborne parasite affecting poor Spanish-speaking communities.
Okay, a real urgent crisis.
Right. They find a cure, they write a brilliant paper on it, but they write it in Spanish, so the local health officials can actually read it and deploy the cure immediately.
Makes perfect sense. But under the globalized metric system, that paper is practically worthless for their career advancement.
That is the ultimate absurdity of modern science. It's like a local doctor curing a town's water supply, but the cure isn't considered valid until it's certified by a plumber in London who has never even visited the town.
Knesset relies heavily on Group 1 journals for evaluation. Scopus, Web of Science. These databases are almost entirely controlled by corporate publishers in the US and UK. They are in English.
And the data on this is just brutal.
The data is damning. Almost 7% of publications chosen for promotion by researchers are in Argentine journals.
Let that sink in. 7%. So what does this all mean? It means local knowledge is being forcibly exported. It has to be translated, packaged for foreign tastes, just to be validated by the state that funded it in the first place.
Yes. Your research on local suffering doesn't count until a reviewer in London or New York says it counts. And that reviewer might reject it because it's too regional or lacks broad theoretical appeal.
It's sickening.
PONEC, for all its flaws and bureaucratic nightmares, actually tried to fight this. Universities like UBA, which holds 92 of its own journals, fiercely defended Spanish and local Latin American indexes like Latindex and Silo.
The defense of Spanish by the university rectors wasn't just administrative stubbornness, it was the last stand of language resistance. Because language is thought. If you force a scholar to write in English, you force them to think within the academic frameworks of the English-speaking world.
But language isn't the only way power manifests on the spreadsheet. We also have to look at the internal politics of the university itself, the phenomenon of the ghost elites.
This is wild. Imagine getting the absolute highest scientific title in the entire country. Category I, the apex of academic prestige. But you didn't discover anything.
No.
You didn't publish groundbreaking research. You didn't cure a disease. You got it because you were a university administrator.
In the early days of ProEns, back in 1993, the system was heavily rigged by the people who designed it. And who designed it? The university managers.
Of course.
Being a rector or a dean gave you massive points on the grid. Management was heavily, absurdly overvalued. It was worth up to 200 points.
You could literally be a bureaucrat, push papers around, sign off on budgets, and effortlessly become a top-tier researcher.
But this sparked an internal war within the faculties. The scientists were furious. By 1997, and again in 2003, the pure researchers organized and fought back.
The researchers struck back.
They did. They lobbied the committees. They enacted reforms that actively slashed these management points. They forced the cap down from 200 points to 150 points.
This is such a crucial takeaway. It proves that the rules of evaluation are never, ever objective. They aren't handed down by God. They are entirely political.
Very political.
They are written by whoever holds power in the committee room at that exact moment. If the managers are in charge, management is considered genius. If the researchers rebel and take over, management is suddenly considered worthless.
Exactly. The metric is just a mirror reflecting the current balance of power. And while the elites, the rectors, and the top-tier researchers fight over Category I points, the vast majority of the university is completely invisible.
Holding up the entire structure from the bottom.
Right, sweating in the engine room.
The glass ceiling. The invisibility in the pyramid. The people doing the absolute heaviest, most exhausting daily labor to keep the university running are completely locked out of the prestige.
Look at the academic pyramid in the data provided. Category V is the absolute lowest tier in the pre-Rowan system. They make up a massive 30.5% of the population.
Almost a third of the workforce.
Right. And Category I, the absolute top, is a tiny 8.5%.
And who is in that 30.5% at the bottom? It is the people doing the grueling, under-rewarded labor. Mass teaching. Grading hundreds of poorly written freshman exams on a Sunday night.
Yeah.
Daily departmental management. And, as the data starkly shows, it is disproportionately women.
The structural reality is harsh, and the pipeline leak is severe. At the base of the university, women make up about 60% of the teaching staff.
60%.
But as you move up the pyramid, past the metrics, past the peer reviews, past the requirements for international travel and English publication, that number drops. In the top-tier Category I, women are barely 51%, and in many hard sciences, much lower.
The system relies on this massive base of invisible labor to function. The university would literally collapse tomorrow without the Category V teachers. Classes wouldn't happen. Exams wouldn't be graded.
But the prestige, the funding, the loud voice in the room when policy is made, that is reserved strictly for the tiny 8.5% at the top, the ones who perfectly fit the paper publishing mold. The sheer injustice of it is staggering.
Yet, despite this massive pressure, despite the internal inequality, despite the global gun to their heads, Argentina did something unique in Latin America. They engaged in what the study calls heterogeneous resistance.
Right, because submitting entirely to the US and UK academic hegemony is not the only option. Argentina proved that coordinated dependency can actually be a victory, or at least a highly effective stalling tactic.
Let's explain how they did this, because it's brilliant.
Yeah.
Look at other Latin American countries during this same era. Look at Chile. Look at Mexico.
They completely caved.
Yeah, when the IMF and the global ranking systems came knocking, they totally surrendered to the international quantitative metrics. They adopted the paper counting, English first models wholesale.
But Argentina fought back. The National Inter-University Council, the CIN, which is the body of all the national university rectors, fiercely negotiated the province terms for 25 years.
How did they negotiate? What did that look like on the ground?
It looked like endless, grueling bureaucratic warfare. When the state wanted to automatically equate CONICET ranks with province ranks, basically saying global metrics rule everything, the CIN flat out refused.
They held the line.
They forced the system to acknowledge local realities. They demanded that teaching points matter. They demanded that Spanish language publications in local journals count for promotion.
The university rectors maintained a space, a small sanctuary, for local relevance. They held the line against immense global pressure.
This raises an important question for anyone working in a large metric-driven organization today. Is it better to be a pure rebel, refuse to fill out the forms, and lose all your funding? Or do you compromise, play the spreadsheet game, but fight for just enough local nuance to keep your soul?
For 25 years, Argentina walked that tightrope perfectly. They compromised, they built the two-headed monster, but they kept their soul.
But then
the wolf finally got through the door.
The end of sovereignty.
25 years of grueling, careful resistance, wiped out in a single pen stroke. The new regime is quietly feeding the universities into the global neoliberal meat grinder.
In 2019, Argentina approved the creation of a new system called cited. It was designed to completely replace the 25-year-old province system. And we have to talk about what cited actually is, because it is terrifying.
Tell me.
Cited destroys everything the local universities fought for. It completely destroys the regional autonomy of the evaluation committees. It centralizes power back to the top to a single national authority.
It actively ignores social transfer. It ignores community extension. If you spend your time helping a local impoverished neighborhood, cited does not care.
It shifts the entire country directly to chasing quantitative papers. It mimics the Mexican S&I model, a ruthless, centralized, purely metric-driven point system decoupled from local community impact.
So they just gave up.
It removes the safety net for local, socially oriented research. It forces absolutely everyone into the international, commercialized metric race. The wolf is inside the house, and it is hungry.
Which brings us to the end of this journey, and the core realization I want you to walk away with. Every single spreadsheet you fill out, every KPI you are forced to meet, every metric you chase at your job is not objective math. It is actually power deeply, quietly disciplining your mind.
We've seen how an evaluation system can twist the very nature of truth. It forces scientists to abandon their students. It punishes local problem solving. It demands that we measure the cultural impact of art with a cold, physical thermometer.
It turns brilliant, passionate people into spreadsheet engineers, desperately slicing up their life's work to feed a machine that doesn't care about them.
I want to leave you with the thought. When the value of scientific research is no longer judged by how much it relieves the suffering of your local community, but strictly by how many times it was cited by strangers globally, haven't we buried the original purpose of science entirely?
Are we just producing data for an empire that doesn't even know we exist?
That's the question we have to ask.
You have to question every objective metric you face in your own career. Remember, someone built that metric, and they built it for a reason. They built it to extract value from you. So the next time you look at a rubric, or a performance review, or an arbitrary standard of success handed down from corporate, ask yourself, are you staring at a broken scale? Are you the Harvard PhD getting rejected? Or are you the local teacher, fighting to keep your soul in a world that only wants to count your spatulas? Keep your eyes open. See you next time.